Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to our May advocacy meeting. We have Michael Lincoln-McCreight is going to talk about the supported decision making. I'm going to let him introduce himself and then I will share his presentation. So Michael, unmute yourself and take it away.
Well, hello guys, welcome. My name is Michael Lincoln-McCreight. All of you know me as a supported decision-making superstar for the state of Florida. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from St. Lucie County. I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. I moved to St. Lucie County in my early teens. I was taken away from my father and placed in a foster care, where I ended up being put in a full guardianship after aging out of foster care. I was a first lieutenant for the Treasure Coast Fort Pierce Guardian Angels Missing Persons Unit, where I was instrumental in locating 8 missing children with special needs. And I was also the first person in Florida to get supported decision making recognized in the state of Florida. And today I am working as a quick service associate here at Universal Orlando Resort. So a lot of stuff that I've been doing.
Okay, well, very good. So are you ready for your
Yep.
presentation?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Let me, hang on one second.
Thanks for doing this, Michael. It's good to see you, buddy.
Thank you, Dustin. So again, welcome to the supported decision-making presentation. Again, my name is Michael Lincoln-McCreight, your supported decision-making superstar. So supported decision-making is basically exactly what it is. It's decision-making with the supports of people you trust. Now, I'm gonna use an example. Like, when you use supported decision-making, how does it work? Well, it works just like consulting your family. Like, let's say I want to go to Universal and go on a vacation at Universal Orlando, but I don't know if that's a good idea or if I have enough money. Well, then I will reach out to supports that I trust and I'll say, what do you think of this? Do you think it's a good idea or not? And then with their decisions, I ultimately make the biggest decision of whether I'm going or not. But I take their suggestions, in effect as my support. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. So when I was first put in foster care, I had my rights fully taken away. I didn't even know my rights was being taken. One day I was in a group home and there was these doctors coming in. Didn't even know who they were. Didn't even know that they were even coming to interview me or to ask me questions. And then an attorney came in and I'm like, okay, why is an attorney? I thought I was in trouble or something, but I wasn't. So then I had a court date and the attorney that was there did not advocate for me, didn't even take into consideration that I knew that I didn't need a guardianship and I had capacity. So the judge ended up ruling to put me in a full guardianship, which destroyed most of my life. I was put in a behavioral group home where I was held hostage from seeing any of my friends, any of my family. And I couldn't do any of the volunteer work. So volunteer with disability rights or going to family cafe or going up to Tallahassee or doing guardian angels, which I had the passion of doing for the past 6 years. I couldn't even do any of that. So I hid in the closet. I got a disposable cell phone. I hid in the closet. I called Disability Rights Florida with other individuals as well as calling. I even called the governor's office, the sheriff of St. Lucie County. I've called literally everybody. And in 2016, I got my rights back. And I was the first person in Florida to get supported decision-making recognized in the state, which is really, really amazing. And then I started doing a bill, which we're going to be sharing some very uplifting news about that later on. And I fought for people's rights to get supported decision-making recognized. Next slide. So how I use SDM. So when I first got my rights back, I wanted to live on my own. So I was like, okay, I reached out to my supports, and the right to live on your own, the right to travel, and also the right to education. I actually graduated from Indian River State College with a Class D security officer certification. And when I was doing all that, I was like, okay, supported decision-making is making a big impact because I consulted with people that I trusted. I consulted with my friends. I've consulted with my family, my Uncle Joe, my Uncle Steve. I consulted with a lot of people. And so when I got my rights back, I'm like, cool. I got to go travel to that was my first time going to Universal Orlando since I had my rights back. And it lets you guide your own life. Next slide. So why is supported decision-making important? Supported decision-making is important because you get to make your own decisions. I feel like in the state of Florida, anybody is able to make their own decisions as long as they put their mind to it. Yes, there could be some decisions that you may not agree with. There could be some decisions that is not the best decision. But at the end of the story, there's consequences from that decision. One of the decisions I've had was throwing my own birthday party. That was an interesting thing because when I was in St. Lucie County, I had really great connections with the law enforcement agencies in that county. And the fire trucks came and the police officers, and they had lights and sirens going. People were thinking that there was a crime going on or something, but they were all there for me to surprise me for my birthday, which was really, really cool. And they even put a poster with Happy Birthday, Michael, with all the police officers signing it, which was amazing. So there's so much opportunities because supported decision-making is important, that people with disabilities can make their own decisions, but make an impact while they're making it. Next slide. And the other decision is, why do we need supported decision-making? Well, we need it because, again, people are allowed to make their own decisions. I recently made a really big decision where I applied for a disability advisory board for Orange County. And I was like, oh, is that a good idea? Should I do that? So I reached out to a couple of people that I trust and see what they thought. And sure enough, they said, yeah, go for it. So I applied and I ended up getting it. I got approved by the county commission yesterday. So I'm able to serve on the board for the disability advisory board for Orange County. But I also run one of my magical groups for the Florida Self-Advocacy Network on Disabilities. And without supported decision-making, I would not be working at Universal. I wouldn't be working, having presidents at Magical Self-Advocacy, and I wouldn't be on the Disability Advisory Board. Next slide. So a day of rights. So there are several rights that are taken away from you, and rights that you can actually get back. So the right to sign a contract, that could be simple as the right to determine your residence, the right to travel, a right to have a driver's license, a right to make decisions about your social life. So, choosing who your friends are, or choosing who you want to be around, or making a positive friendship group is important. The right to seek and retain employment. That's a big one because I've had several jobs, and by far, Universal Orlando has been the best job I've ever had. It's not every day you get to walk through theme park gates and like, holy cow, I'm at work. By seeing the Minion Mayhem ride and the Villain Con ride. And then there's not every day where you get to go on your lunch break and ride Revenge of the Mummy on your lunch break. Which that's a really good ride, just fair warning. Dustin, I gotta throw you on that later. And
I'm ready, man.
Is there another right?
No, go to the next.
In the state of Florida, supported decision-making and law. Done.
So that was a funny one because when we were up, this is social rights, so having a right to travel with friends outside the county you live in was a big one. And this was when we were in the Florida State Capitol with Viviana. She was one of the co-chairs of I Decide Florida. And we were fighting for the bill. We actually met with Representative Allison Tant's office while we were up there. And, we were advocating for the bill and talking to the legislators. And that's how we use supported decision-making, because using supported decision-making to advocate is a big thing, because legislators, they're part of our support staff, but they're not officially, if you get what I'm saying. Like, you can always contact your legislators and be like, hey, I think this should be made into some type of law. What do you think? Or advocate for, housing, low-income housing, provider rates, transportation, anything. And the right to vote, the right to vote is a big one, because we actually vote for our legislators, like Representative Allison Tant, Representative Coster, Representative Trabulsi. Like, we vote for those individuals. And I always laugh at Representative Trabulsi's story when she introduces me, how I interviewed her about supported decision making, and that was the most intense interview she's ever had. But that's just because I want to make sure when I'm electing our elected officials that they're going to fight for us, that they're going to make sure that they're advocating for us. And there's no doubt in my mind that Rep Tant, Rep Coster, they do that. They advocate for people with disabilities, which is why I'm so glad to be working with them on doing the supported decision-making bill. Next slide. So there was did you get the link, Dina?
Yes, are you ready to show that?
Yeah. So this year, I am actually proud to announce that House Bill 73 Supported Decision-Making Authority Bill has been passed this legislative session and is on the way to Governor DeSantis' desk. So that's a really big thing. And this news story was just shot just a little while ago, and I'm just going to share it with everybody.
I don't want to
Ask later.
Yeah. Is still considering whether to sign or veto dozens of bills from this year's legislative session.
Talking about House Bill 73, which is among those pending the governor's signature. It would give people with disabilities more power when it comes to guardianship.
Spectrum News political reporter Jeff Allen, he is joining us live from downtown Orlando tonight. Jeff, I know that you spoke with a man who has worked a lot on getting this measure passed.
Today, I spoke with Michael Lincoln-McCreight here at Lake Eola, and he told me that he hopes this measure will help others avoid something that he had to go through, an unwanted guardianship. Lake Eola is somewhere Michael Lincoln-McCreight is drawn to.
Just like the atmosphere of it.
McCreight has autism.
With autism, if you are in, like, anything can be overwhelming. Like, it could be loud music, loud sounds.
But here,
With me seeing the water and seeing the swans,
he finds peace.
this is kind of like my home away from home.
Just going to the park was something McCreight says he couldn't do on his own for about 4 years when he was placed in a guardianship after he aged out of the foster care system. A guardian has control of a person's finances, making them in control of most aspects of a person's life.
Someone filed a guardianship without me even knowing that they filed a guardianship. And I had doctors and attorneys showing up, and at first I was like, what the heck's going on?
McCreight says it was a struggle to get out of his guardianship.
I had to hide in the closet, get a cell phone, smuggle in a cell phone, call disability rights. And then once I got my rights back, I became the first person in Florida to get a term called supported decision-making recognized in the state.
He then worked with lawmakers in Tallahassee on legislation that would give people with disabilities who are of sound mind the chance to make their own decisions with the support of others, instead of letting one person make their decisions without them having a say in what those decisions are.
It just brings more options for that individual to make his own decisions with the support of people they trust.
McCreight is now living the life he wants to live, and he hopes his efforts will help others do the same.
I'm hoping it avoids people going through what I went through.
Now, this bill passed unanimously in the Florida House and Senate during the legislative session. It's on its way to the governor's desk for him to sign it. I reached out to the governor's office today to see if he does plan on signing it or when and if that will happen. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. If it is signed into law, though, it will take effect on July 1st. Reporting live.
Well, all right. I think everyone's gonna give you kudos for that, Michael. I will go back to, let's see, hang on, give me 1 second. I got too many screens open, I'm sorry. We're gonna go back to the presentation.
So with the supported decision-making bill, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to require judges to look at least restrictive options instead of putting someone in a full guardianship. And it's going to allow people with disabilities to actually make their own decisions. I'm just happy that this bill actually went into effect, because this is a big deal. This is not going to just make a difference for people in Orange County and St. Lucie County. This is going to make a big difference across the state of Florida and let people with disabilities make their own decisions, which is very, very, very important. And I saw the number of participants in here. I want to say thank you to each and every single one of you for coming to hear my story and coming to hear about supported decision making, because when I was told that I would never be anything in life, I knew that was wrong. I knew that I was going to be able to make a difference in my community. And the fact that I even got a proclamation signed for Developmental Disability Awareness Day here in the city of Orlando, it's absolutely amazing. So I do want to open up with questions. And if you guys have questions about the bill along here with me, I do have Rep. Tant's aide, Mitchell Allen, which is her legislative aide. But I just want to open up for questions, and we have plenty of time for questions. So I'll take as many questions as you need, as you guys want.
I see Alan has his hand up first. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, Michael, thanks for all that you did for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is huge. I remember watching your testimony in front of one of the House committees. Just curious, how did you get ready to do that? Because you did a great job when you testified. How do you prepare for that, and how did you get ready to be able to testify?
So I got ready just by practicing. You know, I do a lot of speaking engagements. I actually try to do motivational speeches when I can for people with disabilities. So speaking in public speaking is nothing different to me. So it just comes in natural. And I just do a lot of practicing. So I practice what I want to say, and then when I'm ready to go up, I go for it.
So Kevin Jenkins has his hand raised. Y'all feel free to unmute and ask your questions. We're gonna keep this kind of informal, the second session. Kevin, did you have a question? I don't know where he went. Okay, any? let's
I
see.
did. There was a question in the chat. Where can I get this documentation, and who can I connect my client with should they want information? I don't know really how to answer that, but I would say I know Disability Rights does a lot of supported decision-making stuff. But if Dina and Alan or Dustin, if you want to help me answer that, because I don't really.
I would say that, you know, it talks about having a document, and I know that probably Disability Rights Florida is preparing it now. It'll be effective July 1. But one of the great things about the law, and you mentioned it during your presentation, is before a judge puts a guardianship, they have to consider supportive decision-making as a less restrictive alternative. So that form, I'm sure, is going to be developed. Disability Rights Florida has been all over this. I'm glad that you got through to them when you were in your closet. I know that made a big difference. And but they're committed, I know, to continue on to make sure not only it got passed, but also that people can actually not get the guardianship that they don't want.
And Al, Mitchell, if you would like, do you want to talk a little bit about the bill? If I've left anything out, do you want to say anything about the supported decision-making bill?
We can't hear you, Mitchell. Can you turn your volume or something? No, sorry. You're unmuted on our end, but I think it may be on your side. So while Mitchell's figuring that out, there was another question in the chat, Michael. Do you know who filed the original petition for guardianship? And I would imagine they're referring to you.
So I do not know who filed the original petition for the guardianship. But in the state of Florida, anybody can file a guardianship. I know that sounds strange and weird. But I really don't know who I filed. I believe it could have been my financial guardian. I don't know. But I do not know who filed my original guardianship, which that's why it caught me off guard, because I didn't even know it was happening.
Mitchell, were you able to, can we hear you? Okay. I think Laura Mahesky, you have a hand up.
I do. Can you hear me, Dina?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, this is very exciting, and thank you so much, Michael, for all your hard work. And I'm a support coordinator, and so I guess my first question to you is what advice would you give somebody who would like to take over and not have a guardian and be able to do what you have done? What advice would you give? And my other question to you is, how did you decide who would help you make your decision? Who would be your supporter? Like, who do you think is the best supporter?
Yes, David. I'm on a Zoom.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last, because the other person jumped in.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah, my understanding is, and I would, as a support coordinator, I'd love more training in this, hint, ARCA Florida. But my second question would be, who do you think makes the best supporter to help you make your decisions? Is that somebody who's paid to do that, like a support coordinator or a caseworker, or a friend?
So, it doesn't necessarily have to be a paid individual to help you make your own decisions. It could be your family or your friends. I sometimes call Mitchell all the time. Sometimes I call my good friend Stephanie from We the People. She's developed a really good friendship with me. And sometimes I'll even contact some of the local state reps that I've had really good things with, relationships with. And so it's several things that could be considered supported decision making. But the advice I could give someone, and I tell this to judges all the time, and I wanted to share this. When you tell a judge, when the judge takes away your rights, at the end of the day, they get to go home and pretend everything is normal. Nothing ever happened. But the person that they took that right away from, they live a whole different life. They live a life where they have no rights. They have no way to decide what they want to do. And they have no access to their money. So, and there's a lot of guardianship abuse going on in the state of Florida. And hopefully this will eliminate a lot of the guardianship abuse going on, and eliminate where people have the opportunity to make their own decisions that can. Now, I'm not saying everyone doesn't need a guardianship, but I believe anyone can make their own decisions.
Okay, so we've got a couple things in the chat. First, I'm gonna read Michael's chat. We appreciate you typing since we couldn't hear you. He wanted to add that the elder care section of the Florida Bar did note that House Bill 73 will enact the strongest supported decision-making law in the country. Woohoo! And also we do have Caitlin Clibben on with Disability Rights Florida, and in the chat she has a couple web links. Caitlin, did you want to say a few words from Disability Rights?
Sure. I wasn't planning to, but if folks are interested in supported decision making, they can contact it. Hi, Mike. Hi there. Folks can contact us at we have online intake form or a hotline that they can call, or we'll accommodate other needs if people need to do an intake differently. And we try to take as many of these cases as we can and help people get their agreements completed and signed. And if folks are in a guardianship already and looking to get out of one, or to use supported decision making, we're happy to help them with getting that process started, filing their suggestion of capacity. And also, we do like to do our supported decision making presentations as well. So if folks are looking for training, they can reach out to us, and we provide presentations at different levels of depth, from anywhere from just lay people through all the way up to through attorneys with CLE credit. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. Y'all are right, we have made this a priority. And I'm so proud of the bill, and I'm so proud of Mike and everyone else who helped. And proud to work with the ARC, and I really appreciate everyone, and I'm really enjoying this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. I am gonna send out a copy of Michael's presentations for those that attended, and we will put Caitlin's links in there as well.
And I do want to say that with supported decision making, I am speaking. If anyone who's going to Family Cafe, I am speaking at the Family Cafe this year. So you're gonna see another presentation about me. So if you guys are going to Family Cafe, I can give Dina the information, and if you guys would like to attend. But this is going to be a really big deal because it has not been sent to the governor yet. But there is no doubt in my mind that once this hits his desk, mark my words, and if you see this happen, I'm gonna say I told you so. There is no doubt in my mind he's not going to want to do a press conference on this. This is going to be a really big deal, not just for the disability community, but everybody. And I am just, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it before Family Cafe, if he brings it to Family Cafe. I'm just saying. But this is a big deal, and I cried after I saw it pass on the House Senate floor, because this is something I've been fighting for my whole life. And this means the world to me.
Michael, ARC of Florida will be sharing with all the other 49 state ARC chapters, and maybe we'll inspire other states that don't have it to reach out to you and find out what it would take to do it in their state. Because I know people all over the country are interested in this.
So we have 2 questions in the chat, and it may be more that Caitlin answers these, not to put you on the spot. One question is, there's an individual that it's protecting her adult child from being taken advantage of financially by acquaintances. How does that work if they don't have a guardianship?
Well, I could answer that. If they have a disability, you heard of the child abuse hotline. It's also an adult abuse hotline, but instead of the child abuse hotline, which is abuse, abandonment, and neglect, the adult hotline is abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So if you believe that you're being exploited, you can call that hotline, and they'll investigate it within 60 days to see what's happened. So if you're a self-advocate and feel like you've been exploited, that is the state of Florida way to have it looked at and have a determination about whether you were exploited or not.
Any other comments towards that or follow-up?
I'll just add to that if the investigation does show that there was abuse or exploitation, there are criminal statutes that come into play where the person can be prosecuted criminally, which also allows for restitution to hopefully get some of that money back. It's the same risk that we all face going about in our day-to-day lives, that someone might try to take advantage of us. It's the same kind of remedies as well. Aside from the fact of what Alan was saying about the vulnerable adult hotline. So it's always uncomfortable to do things that are uncertain, but it's what we call the dignity of risk. We all enjoy the ability to take some risks and to live our lives, and there is risk inherent in that. And but we do want to make sure that anyone who is found to have done something improperly, whether it's with someone with an SDM agreement or not, to make sure that they're investigated and prosecuted if appropriate.
So is there any way that it could take less times? Because 60 days, that's a long time.
Well,
if you are in that situation.
Well, I'd say that's what the statutory criteria is. But the other thing is, if you report it, it's anonymous. So a lot of people are scared to report. And I say elderly abuse, but it also people with disabilities. And so, they got to have time to do the investigation. They can't just make a decision. And that means, going out there, the adult investigators are trained to talk to collaterals and come to a decision.
So we have another question versus guardianship and guardian advocacy. And I know we've had other webinars on that, but Caitlin or Alan, do you want to briefly just describe the difference?
Sure, I'll go for it, and Alan can round me out if I miss anything. Guardianship and guardian advocacy both involve removing at least one of the person's rights. Supported decision making doesn't involve removing any rights. And guardianship and guardian advocacy, to me, you know, one of the common things I see folks using it for is when they're maybe their child has a disability and they're turning 18 and they're concerned that they're not ready to, you know, be independent yet. But you know, they can learn and they will get there, and it might just take them a little bit longer than some others. And folks think that they can have a guardianship or guardian advocacy and then easily get out of it later. Not understanding that getting out of a guardianship, it's out of your hands. The court has to make that decision, and it also can be quite expensive. So, you know, if it all seems appropriate to try SDM first, you know, that's kind of how we see it. Is SDM is the kind of lesser restrictive alternative. If you can use SDM and get by and be safe and supported with SDM, then you never have to worry about your rights being removed or trying to get them back. Guardianship and guardian advocacy. I know guardian advocacy is a little different than guardianship, but at its, you know, core, it's the same kind of essential elements of at least one right has to be removed, and then you have to get a court involved to get those rights back. The parent can't just decide, okay, you're ready now. You know, the court may disagree, and it can be really frustrating for families who thought it was a temporary thing and was not.
And I just want to point out when they do a guardianship, and Michael showed all the different things that a guardianship involves, that each one has to be determined individually by the judge. The voting, the drive, I mean, there's a list of rights that they can take away through a guardianship, but a judge just can't say, I'm taking them all away. They're supposed to look at each one, because the goal is to let people have as many rights as they possibly can. That's the goal. And to do that, you start off with the least restrictive being supportive decision-making before you go to anything else.
And I know supported decision-making has been a legislative priority for the ARC of Florida, Disability Rights, and the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council. So I've gotten the pleasure to working greatly and connect with Margaret Hooper, Caitlin from DRF, and also you, Alan, Dustin, and Dina with the supported decision making. And it's honestly just it's a least restrictive option. Like guardian advocacy, yes, you can have, but you're still gonna have like a guardian. I think it's like a guardian, or I'm not very familiar with guardianship advocacy, but supported decision making would be the better option, because the person can actually make their own decisions, but with the people they trust, you know. Even when MTV interviewed me about my story, I'm like, at first I thought this was a prank when they called me. I'm like, is this MTV Cribs? But sadly I wasn't getting a new house. But you know, I reached out to my supports before talking to them, and you know, it's a big thing. Like this has been a topic all across the country. You know, this is making a difference for people. And hopefully my goal is to get all 50 states doing supported decision making, hoping, but we're on a good foot so far.
And I think the fact that you had Representative Tant, you know, this was 4 years in the making. I mean, she had, you know, a representative only gets, I think, 7 bills, right? And she has so many things she's trying to do in her community, and to choose that for so many years to get till we got it done is pretty amazing. So Representative Tant, you know, she's just been a fighter for you, Michael.
Yeah, and I do want to also say, like, not only Representative Tant, but we've had co-sponsors from this legislative session, this legislative session, and it's amazing of how many co-sponsors we had. We had pretty much almost 9 co-sponsors on the House level, which is absolutely amazing. And 3 of them were my local state reps from Orlando. So Representative Escamani, Representative Harris, Representative Lopez, and then obviously Representative Snyder, Trabolsi, Tuck, you know, all of them, like that's amazing. Like how many traction we've gotten in the House level. Even in the Senate, we had one co-sponsor in the Senate, but we pushed it, and this was a hard fight. I know it. I'm sure Rep Tant had wanted to scream at books sometimes or whatever, but you know, this was a hard fight, and the fact that we're about to make it into law on July 1st is a big deal. And you know, I'm just honored. I worked closely with We the People in Tallahassee. They came and rooted me on when I had to say an extra day when it was being heard in committee. But this is what it's all about, advocating. I even run Magical Self-Advocacy, and this was one of our legislative priorities for Magical. And, you know, I will tell you, I came home from work and I was not expecting this. I came back to work from coming back from Tallahassee, and my own department, along with Mark Woodbury, the CEO of Universal, said, "Oh my God, what did you just do?" Because they know that once Universal Orlando is mentioned, they're going to get a whole bunch of press coming and asking for interviews, because I just made history in Orlando and in the state of Florida. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of working with Alan, working with the ARC of Florida. This is going to be a really good thing for our individuals. And Alan, Dustin, Gina, thank you. Thank you for supporting me in every step of the way. Stephanie, Amanda, all the We the People, you know, thank you, because I don't know where I would be. I'm about to be on a board for people with disabilities in Orange County. Literally, I was just voted on yesterday of being approved to be on the board, and this is amazing. I'm gonna make a big difference. So
Yes,
thank you
you
guys
are.
so much.
You certainly are. So another plug for Michael. I know he's going to be at Family Cafe, but he is also going to be on a self-advocate panel at our advocacy days in September in Orlando. Our keynote speaker will be speaking on supported decision-making in general. Jonathan Martinez was the lawyer in the groundbreaking case with Jenny Hatch back in, I think it was 2016 or 17. So he's the keynote, and then he's leading a panel discussion and with Michael and two other awesome self-advocates on our Saturday morning session. So be sure to take a look for that.
And I know we have Margaret. Margaret, do you want to say anything about the developmental disability council's priority for supported decision making?
Thank you, Michael. You're like the ultimate thoughtful facilitator and politician in the making here.
Does that mean I have your vote for governor of the state of Florida?
I think probably everyone on this call is behind you there. But the council's worked on guardianship issues for probably 30 years. And so supported decision-making was always a theoretical possibility, and to see it actually come to fruition is very exciting. And Representative Tant was tireless in trying to find a compromise between advocates, Disability Rights Florida, and of course the Florida Bar. And I'm just thrilled that she provided such good leadership. One thing I wanted to address was, I think it was you, Dan Spencer, that had asked about, isn't there already something about least restrictive environment in the statute around guardian advocacy and guardianship?
Correct.
And it's my understanding that what this new bill does, it has language where you have to do more than just nod your head in a courtroom and say, yeah, we looked into that. That you actually have to show how a person is unable to think for themselves, and you have to show what's been tried. So I think that it will be a higher bar. And another thing that we've taught when we were doing guardianship workshops some years ago is the idea that this supported decision-making can be used in guardianships for people who really need guardianships. I used to have clients, when I worked for the public guardian's office, that couldn't speak or even open their eyes. So we had people that clearly weren't going to be able to use supported decision-making alone. So the state was their guardian, but what we did is we would contact any remaining family who had not been able to be a guardian and just ask about this person's preferences, what they would want, to give that person as much input and decision-making as possible.
I just wanted to touch base with you that we did the transition meeting, and Stephanie
And that was
will
it.
be leaving us on Friday.
I think somebody needs to
And
be on mute.
so
I think Arlene. Thank you, Arlene. So anyway, you can use some of these concepts within a guardianship for people that really do need one. It's just overall a really good framework.
I just think in some ways it's going to be somewhat confusing for some people if they don't understand the guardianship versus guardian advocacy, and that also least restrictive is already kind of built in. And Mr. Lincoln-McCreight, it's outstanding what you've done. There's no doubt about that. And
Yeah.
But I just kind of want to look to see how that plays out, and the fact that it seems tragic that if this was just a full guardianship thrust upon you, and it maybe should have been a guardian advocacy with some limited rights, not total incapacity, things may have gone differently. But in any case, Mr. Lincoln-McCreight, you've done outstanding. There's no doubt about it.
And the fight's not over, you know. I've already been getting appointments with some circuit judges in Orange County to make sure that they're educated on the new law that's going to be in effect on July 1. But you know, it's like again, I'm going to say it's all about our individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. Okay,
Hey,
it's all about the. Go ahead.
Michael, I was gonna say that the Office of State Court Administration, they do judicial training. I'll send this YouTube to their person, John Couch, who runs that program, because it'd be good if you spoke to the Judicial College, to the people before they become judges that
Most
handle this
definitely.
stuff.
Most definitely. And I'm actually looking at you know, I've enjoyed passing this bill so much, and I said I am going to run for some type of office, whether it's House of Representative, whether it's U.S. Senate, whether it's Florida governor, whether it's city commissioner, county commissioner, whatever, because I feel that in the state of Florida, our people with disabilities voices deserve to be heard. I know Governor DeSantis has done a lot of work with people with disabilities so far. I know he just announced $2.2 billion for Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So he's advocating for people with disabilities across the state. But, you know, I'm just so happy that this is actually happening. And thank you everyone for, you know, supporting me and supporting the bill. And I look forward to seeing that clip of the governor signing the bill when he, a matter of fact, before I left Tallahassee, I even went to the governor's office and I got to sit behind his desk, which was pretty interesting. That was really cool. I almost felt like I was Governor Michael for a second there, but yeah, but yeah, I am glad to be talking in Disney this year. That means I get to go to Magic Kingdom and see Mickey Mouse a lot, and Chip and Dale, and my favorite character Stitch. But I'm just so happy, and we still have a lot of work to do. And I'm so proud of myself. Thank you so much for everything. And stay tuned, because I'm not done yet. I know I actually am been volunteering for the Autism Theater Project. So I have a red carpet event in Fort Lauderdale that I'm speaking at. So I got to get my suit and tie ready. So I'm just so honored. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Michael. We certainly appreciate you telling your story today. And thank you to Mitchell, even though we couldn't hear you, we appreciate you being on, definitely. So I hope everyone will join Michael in June and then again in September at our advocacy days. So
Thank
again,
you,
y'all
guys.
have a good
Thanks,
week.
Michael.
Thank you.